Hello and welcome to week 14 of the Country Garden Crochet Along, and this week we're starting the base of the stitch we'll be finishing next week. So this is the Filet grid that we'll be working into to make next week's stitch. So how do we make it?
Okay, so we're going to be joining into the second of our corner stitches. So you can start whichever side you like. I'm starting on the long sides with the tulip panel. Okay, so here's my two corner stitches. So the first one is this side and my second one is here, and it's the second one we're going to be joining into. So I'm going to be using this lovely medium green, and we're going to join with a standing double crochet. I'm just going to get that sorted out and go into my second corner stitch and make that standing double crochet. My stitch marker in. If you don't like standing stitches, you can just join with a normal starting chain. Just make that count as your first stitch. Okay, so we've got a standing double crochet, and now we're going to double crochet in the next 8 stitches. So 1, 2, 'kay, so there's double crochet number 8, and then you chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then make a double crochet in the following stitch. Okay. And then we're going to make another 8 double crochet after that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So including that first double crochet we made after the chain 1, you should have 9 double crochet in this section. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you chain 1, skip the next stitch and make a double crochet. And then you'll make another 8 double crochet. So we're just repeating this section. So it's 9 double crochet in the section, chain 1, skip a stitch, and you make another 9 double crochet. We're going to do that until the end of the row. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I shall come back to you when we get towards the corner. Okay, so after doing a last set of 9 double crochet, so I've got my last chain 1 back there, I've done another set of 9, and that 9th double crochet is now sitting in the first one of my corner stitches. Okay, so now into the second corner stitch I'm going to make 2 double crochet. So this counts as the extra corner stitch and the first stitch for the next side. I'm going to turn that round. Okay, so I've got my first stitch for the next side, and it's the same again. So stitch number 1 done, so I want another 8 double crochet. 1, 2, and we're following the same pattern. So I'm going to do my 8 double crochet, so that one of those stitches in the corner stitch will be number 9. And then chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then make 9 double crochet. 7. Okay, and we're going to do that right to the end of the row again. So I'm going to carry on with that, and I shall see you when we get to the other side of this side. I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so I'm at the next corner, and so the side I've just done is on the short side, okay, on top of the marigold panel. And the only difference between this short side and the long side is this last repeat. You'll only have 8 stitches in this last repeat, not 9. Okay, and that brings me to the first stitch in the corner stitch. Okay, but that is the only difference, just 8 stitches instead of 9. And then after that corner stitch into the second one, you make 2 double crochet again. Okay, and then you just repeat. So I'm going to be going down onto the puff flower stitch on the side of that side of the panel, and this is going to be the same as the one I did on the long side, and that is 9 double crochet after each chain 1 space. Okay, and that last repeat will be 9 double crochet. And then across my other short side we'll do the same 9 double crochet, but when we get to the other edge, before we join back to the beginning of the round, there'll be only 8 stitches. Okay, the same as this short side here. So I'm going to carry on and finish this round, and I shall come back to you at the end of round 1. Okay, so I've just finished the other short side above the wiggle stitch. 4, 5, 6, 7, yep. And I've got 8 stitches in that last section, and that will go into that last stitch of the round. And then we're going to finish the round by making another double crochet in the first stitch that you started in, and this will be our corner, and then slip stitch into that first stitch, that standing double crochet. Just take that out, it's in the way, and just slip stitch into there, and that's the first round complete. Okay, so after making our first stitch, we're going to make a double crochet in the next 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so you should stop 2 stitches before you get to that chain 1 space. So now you chain 1, and with the chain 1s in this round, make sure you keep them loose. If you do have trouble keeping them loose, I would switch to a 5.5mm hook, as chain too tight in these rounds can really make your blanket not lie flat later. I made that mistake before. Right, so we chain 1, we skip the next stitch and then make a double crochet. Chain 1 again, skip the chain 1 space, and then double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1 again, skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next. Okay, so we've got 3 chain spaces, so that middle one should line up with the one in the last round, and you've got one either side. Okay, so after that double crochet, we're going to double crochet in the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so you can have 5 double crochet in between your sets of chain 1s. 5 in between, and now we start adding those chain spaces back in. So now we chain 1, skip the next stitch, and double crochet in the next. chain 1 again, skip the next stitch, which is the chain 1 space in the row below, round below even, and then double crochet in the next stitch, and then again chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then make another double crochet. And that's our next set of chain 1 spaces double crochet, and then we're going to repeat again. So we're going to do another 4 double crochet after this, so including that one we just did, that'll be 5, and then we'll do chain 1 double crochet 3 times again. So I'm going to repeat that right to the end of the row. So I'm going to do this right up until that last chain 1 in the last round. I shall come back to you in a second when I finish that. Okay, so I'm at the end of the long side. I'm starting on top of the tulip stitch. Okay, just remember our stitch counts as just 1 stitch different between our long and short sides. So because it's on the long side, after the last double crochet, after my 3 chain 1s, I'm going to make another 7 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that brings me into the first of our corner stitches, and then in the second of our corner stitches I'm going to make 2 double crochet in the same stitch. 1 and 2. So of course that second double crochet counts as the first stitch of our next side, which is one of our short sides. Okay. So we're going to repeat the same thing again. So we've done the first stitch of this side. So I'm going to double crochet in the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So again that brings us 2 stitches short of our chain 1 space in the round below, and we're going to repeat the exact same pattern for this side as well. Chain 1, skip the next stitch and make a double crochet, chain 1, skip the chain 1 space and then double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, skip the next stitch and then double crochet. Okay, and then I'm going to make another 4 double crochet before starting that again, and I'm going to do this all the way down this side until we get towards the corner. So I'm going to finish this repeat down this side, and then I'll show you the stitch count for the short side when I get to the end. So I shall be back in a moment. Okay, so I finished my final repeat and I've got my last 3 chain 1 spaces there. So after this last double crochet, because we're on the short side, we're making 6 double crochet before we get to that corner stitch. So on the long side, your last bit of the row has 7 double crochet. On the short side, it's 6 before you reach the corner. You won't see this stitch difference in the final result. It just means that we're bringing our stitch count right. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we get to our corner stitch. So the second corner stitch of the round below, and then we make 2 double crochet in the same stitch. And that counts as our first stitch of the next side, which we're back to the long side above our puff flowers, and we're just going to repeat what we did above the tulip panel. Okay, so 6 double crochet, and then we start the chain 1 repeats. Okay, so you just do that all the way around, just repeat the long and short side, and I'm going to come back at the end of the round and show how it looks. Okay, so I finished that last set of stitches on the short side, and I made the last double crochet in the last stitch of the round. And now to finish off, we're going to make a stitch into the same stitch as the first stitch of that round. Okay, so that's my first stitch of the round, and I'll just make one more double crochet into that stitch and then slip stitch into that first double crochet. We're going to start in the same place as we ended. We're going to be adding one more round of the green. Okay, so we're going to start by making a chain one, and into the same stitch that we slip stitched into, we're going to make a double crochet turning chain. Just pop my stitch marker in, and now I'm going to double crochet in the next 4 stitches. Okay, so including our starting chain, we'll have 5 double crochet in total. There's more yarn there. Oops, there we go. And there's number 5. So turning chain plus 4 double crochet, and you're going to stop 2 stitches before you reach the first chain space in the row below. And then we're pretty much going to do what we did last week. We're just adding an extra chain space. So chain 1, skip the next stitch and double crochet in the next. Just move over here. Chain 1 again, skip the chain space and double crochet into the next stitch. So again, with this round, if you tend to chain tightly, I would use a 5.5mm hook, or a 6mm if you can't get the 5.5. But it's quite critical for the next couple of rows that you don't chain tightly, as you could end up buckling the whole thing. Okay, so 3 chain spaces, then chain 1, double crochet in the next stitch, and then 1 more, skip the next stitch and double crochet in the next. Okay, so you're going to have 5 chain 1 spaces in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you'll notice, that last double crochet means you only have 2 spaces left before the next chain space, which means you're just going to carry on. So this row is pretty much all double crochet in chain 1 except for when you get to the corners. Okay, and so we are just going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and we're now into our next set of 5 chain spaces straight away. Okay, so you're just going to double crochet, chain 1, double crochet all the way across until you get to the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the other side of this row, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so I finished my last chain 1 space, and as you can see, the round below, you have a chain 1 space above that, and then you make another one to the side, and then you're finished for that side for those chain 1 spaces. So now we need to do our corner stitches. So after that last double crochet, you're going to make 5 double crochet. So 1, 2, 3. Hang on a second, it's pulling me down. Probably now it's getting so big it's dragging down to the bottom. Right, so the last one, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hang on, if I counted right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you get to the corner stitches of the row below. So then we do another one into that first stitch, and then we're going to make 2 double crochet into that second corner stitch. That's 1 and 2. Okay, so it's going to be making that this triangle pattern all the way along. Right, so that was the long side. The short side is exactly the same, except you're going to have one less double crochet in this section at the end. Okay, but otherwise it is just all double crochet, chain 1 around the side again. Okay, but it's pretty easy to keep track of. Just make sure you stop and start so you get that nice diagonal pattern of boxes at the beginning and end. I'll just go back to that big front end. So I'll bring this up and you can see it was this nice diagonal. So we're making those triangle shapes. So that's how you know where to start and end for the corner stitches. Okay, so just when you get to the end of the short side, you've just got one less double crochet on the end. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that, and I'm going to see you when I get back to the beginning of the row. Round, even. Okay, so I'm back round to the start, and I've made a double crochet in the first corner stitch. Okay, so there's our first stitch, which is our turning chain, and I'm going to make another stitch into the same stitch as the turning chain, so another double crochet in that stitch, and then I'm going to slip stitch into that turning chain, and there we go. So if you remember, I said that it was really important not to make your chains too tight. So when you're going around the row, if it's getting too tight, your corners will not sit flat. Okay, these will start to kind of bunch up. But if you lay your entire piece flat and your corners are flat, then all is well. Okay, so that's sitting nicely. So I'm good to continue. So